You posted something true about yourself 20 minutes ago. Something vulnerable. Something real. And now your hand reaches for your phone without permission. Your heart is already beating faster. Your stomach has tied itself into something small and tight. You unlock the screen. You check the reactions. 3 likes. No comments yet. Your chest deflates. You refresh. Still 3. You close the app. You open it again 30 seconds later. 4 likes now. Your breath comes a little easier. But not easy enough. Never easy enough. This is your life, this quiet desperation, this invisible cage. You change your clothes 3 times before leaving the house because you're not sure which version of yourself the people you'll see today want to meet. You rehearse conversations in the shower, editing out the parts that might be too much or not enough. You share an opinion at dinner and immediately scan the faces around the table for signs of approval or rejection. Your nervous system reads micro-expressions like a detective searching for evidence of your worthiness, a raised eyebrow, a slight frown, a distracted glance at a phone. Each one lands in your body like a verdict. You have become a chameleon. You shift and adjust and perform depending on the audience. With your parents, you are one person. With your friends, another. With your colleagues, someone else entirely. You have spent so much energy shape-shifting that you have forgotten your original color. You have performed so many versions of yourself that you no longer know which one is real. And you are exhausted. The exhaustion lives in your bones. It sits in your shoulders. It clouds your mind. Because it takes enormous energy to live like this, to constantly monitor, to endlessly adjust, to perpetually seek. You are running a complex calculation in the background of every interaction. What do they want from me? What will make them like me? What will make them stay? And beneath that calculation is a more desperate question. Am I enough? You achieve something significant. You work hard. You create something. You overcome something difficult. And the first thing you do is look around to see who noticed. The accomplishment itself feels incomplete without witnesses, without validation, without someone else confirming that yes, this matters, yes, you did well, yes, you are worthy. Your joy is conditional. Your pride is borrowed. Your sense of self is on loan from other people's opinions. You have outsourced your worth to a panel of judges who never agreed to the job. Strangers on the internet. Colleagues who are thinking about their own lives. Friends who love you, but are too distracted to constantly affirm you. Family members who have their own wounds and limitations. You have given these people power over your emotional state, over your self-concept, over your sense of whether you are allowed to take up space in the world. And here is the most painful part. Most of them are barely thinking about you at all. They are not sitting around analyzing your words or your choices or your worth. They are not gathering in secret meetings to discuss whether you are enough. They are living their own lives, fighting their own battles, seeking their own validation. You have been holding your breath, waiting for their approval, and they have already moved on to the next thing. You have been a prisoner, and the guards have left the building. This is the invisible chain. You feel its weight. You feel how it restricts your movement, limits your choices, shapes your life. But you cannot see it, because it is made of belief, of conditioning, of neural pathways carved deep by experience and repetition. It is made of the story you have been telling yourself since childhood, that your value is determined by others, that love is something you earn, that acceptance is something you must achieve. that you are not allowed to exist freely until someone gives you permission. You have been waiting for permission that will never come, because the permission you need cannot come from outside. It can only come from within. And this is where everything changes. What if the approval you are chasing is the very thing keeping you from becoming who you are meant to be? What if every moment spent seeking validation is a moment stolen from actually living? What if the version of yourself that everyone approves of is not the fullest, truest, most powerful version available to you? What if you have been shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold you? Think about the opinions you have not shared because they might be unpopular, the dreams you have not pursued because they might look foolish, the boundaries you haven't set because they might make someone uncomfortable, the authentic self you have not revealed because it might be rejected. You have traded your truth for approval, your freedom for acceptance, your becoming for belonging. And belonging to others while abandoning yourself is not belonging at all. It is erasure. You have felt this in quiet moments, in the shower, in the car driving home from a party where you performed beautifully but felt empty, in the middle of the night when you are alone with yourself and the performance ends. You have felt the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be. And that gap is where your life force drains away. But you have stayed in the pattern because you do not know another way, because seeking approval feels safer than risking rejection, because the known prison feels more secure than the unknown freedom, because you have been doing this for so long that you have mistaken the cage for home. You have been holding your breath your entire life, waiting, wondering, watching for signs that you are allowed to be yourself, that you are allowed to want what you want, that you are allowed to take up space, that you are allowed to matter. And while you have been waiting, your life has been passing. Moments you could have lived fully, risks you could have taken, words you could have spoken, love you could have received, joy you could have experienced, all of it filtered through the question, but what will they think? This ends now, not because you are broken, not because you have failed, but because you are ready. You have tried living for their approval, and you have discovered that it does not work, that it will never work, that no amount of external validation will ever fill the hole inside you, because the hole is not a lack of their love, it is a lack of your own. You have been looking for yourself in their eyes, and you cannot find yourself there. You can only find their projections, their expectations, their limitations, their fears. To find yourself, you must turn inward. You must become the source of your own validation, the origin of your own worth, the authority on your own life. This is not easy. It goes against everything you have been taught, everything you have practiced, everything that has kept you safe in a world where rejection once meant death to your ancestors. Your brain is wired to seek belonging. Your nervous system is designed to avoid social exclusion. This is ancient programming, survival code written into your biology. But you do not live in that ancient world anymore. Social rejection will not kill you. Disapproval will not end you. You can survive someone thinking you are wrong. You can survive someone being disappointed in you. You can survive not being liked by everyone. You can survive being yourself. And not only survive, thrive. Because on the other side of this pattern is a life you can barely imagine right now. A life where you wake up and the first voice you hear is your own. Where you make decisions based on your values instead of their expectations, where you create without asking permission, where you speak without rehearsing, where you exist without apologizing, a life where you are free. This audiobook is your map to that freedom. It will show you why you seek approval in the first place, where the pattern began, how it operates in your brain and body, what keeps it alive, and most importantly, how to break it. You will learn the exact tools and practices that interrupt the approval-seeking loop. You will understand the neuroscience that explains why this has been so hard. You will discover how to validate yourself so completely that others' opinions become interesting data instead of existential threats. You will build a life structure that supports your sovereignty instead of undermining it. And by the end of this journey, you will no longer be someone who is trying to stop seeking validation. You will be someone who does not need it. Not because you have become arrogant or isolated, but because you have become whole, complete, self-sufficient in the ways that matter most. You will still care what people think, but you will care more about what you think. You will still value connection, but you will not sacrifice yourself to maintain it. You will still listen to feedback, but you will filter it through your own knowing instead of letting it define you. You will be unmoved by praise and undestroyed by criticism. Grounded in yourself, secure in your worth, free to become. This is not a fantasy. This is not wishful thinking. This is a documented, researched, proven transformation that thousands of people have already experienced. People who were once as trapped as you are now. People who broke the invisible chain and built lives of authenticity and power. You are next. The prison door is unlocked. It always has been. You have simply been afraid to push it open. Afraid of what you might lose. Afraid of who you might become. Afraid of the responsibility of freedom. But staying small is its own kind of death. Slow, quiet, soul-crushing. You have been dying by degrees every time you choose approval over truth. Every time you silence yourself. Every time you shrink. This is your resurrection. Take a breath, a real one, deep into your belly. Feel your lungs expand. Feel your body here, present, alive, yours. You are about to become who you were always meant to be. Not a better version of the performed self, but the truest version of your actual self, unedited, unfiltered, unapologetic. The journey starts here, right now, with the recognition that you have been seeking something outside yourself that only you can provide, with the decision to stop waiting for permission that will never come, with the first small choice to validate yourself instead of looking to them. This is the beginning of everything. You need to see it clearly now. Every mechanism, every pattern, every way this invisible chain has shaped your life. Because you cannot change what you cannot see. And most of what controls you operates in the shadows, beneath conscious awareness, running like code in the background of your mind. Let's start with the conversations you have before you have them. You are in the shower, and you are rehearsing. Someone said something to you yesterday that bothered you. You are crafting your response now. You play out the scene. You imagine their reaction. You adjust your words. You try different tones. Firm but not aggressive. Clear but not confrontational. You practice facial expressions in the mirror. You edit and revise and polish until you have a version that might, maybe, possibly be received well. And then when the actual conversation happens, you do not say what you practiced, because their energy is different than you imagined, because the moment does not feel right, because you lose your nerve. So you say something safer, something smaller, something that will not risk disapproval. And later, alone again, You replay the conversation and critique your performance. You imagine what you should have said. You practice for next time. The cycle continues. This is not preparation. This is prison. You do this with texts too. You type a message. You delete it. You rewrite it. You read it out loud. You consider every possible interpretation. You remove anything that might be misunderstood. You add qualifiers and softeners. I think maybe. Just wondering. No pressure, but sorry to bother you. You shrink your clarity into something palatable. You send the message. You immediately regret it. You wonder if you should have said it differently. You watch for the response. The 3 dots appear. Your heart rate spikes. The dots disappear. Your stomach drops. They appear again. You hold your breath. The message arrives. You analyze every word for signs of approval or rejection. This is your nervous system on constant alert. Scanning, monitoring, calculating threat levels in every interaction. You walk into a room and you are reading faces before you have even said hello. Who looks happy to see you? Who looks indifferent? Who seems annoyed? Your brain processes micro-expressions faster than conscious thought. A slight tightening around the eyes. A mouth that smiles but doesn't soften. A gaze that slides away too quickly. Each signal registers in your body as data about your safety, your acceptability, your worth. You share an opinion at a dinner party and you are watching. Are they nodding? Are they frowning? Did someone just exchange a glance with someone else? What does that glance mean? You run silent calculations in real time. Is this making them like me more or less? Should I walk this back? Should I double down? Should I make a joke to soften it? Should I change the subject? You are not present in the conversation. You are managing a performance, adjusting constantly based on feedback you are reading in their bodies, their faces, their energy. You have become a social detective, gathering evidence about whether you are being accepted or rejected. And this gathering takes all your attention, all your energy, all your presence, so you are never actually there. You are always slightly outside yourself, watching yourself, evaluating yourself through their eyes. This is exhausting in ways you have stopped noticing because it has become your baseline. You think everyone lives like this. You think this is just what it means to be socially aware, emotionally intelligent, considerate. But there is a difference between attunement and hypervigilance, between empathy and self-erasure, between caring and desperation. You have crossed that line so many times you no longer know where it is, and the exhaustion compounds because you are not just managing one version of yourself. You are maintaining multiple versions across different contexts. There is the you at work, professional, competent, careful not to seem too ambitious or too passive, too confident or too insecure. You have calibrated this version precisely to fit what you think they want. There is the you with your family, playing a role assigned decades ago. The responsible one, the funny one, the successful one. The problem. Whatever role keeps the system stable. Whatever role earns you belonging in that particular ecosystem. You slip into character when you walk through their door. You do not even think about it anymore. There is the you with your friends, different versions. With this group you are more outgoing. With that group you are more reserved. You adjust your humor, your opinions, your energy to match the tone of each tribe. You know what is acceptable and what is not in each circle. You stay within the bounds. There is the you on social media, curated, edited, filtered. You post what will get the right response. You delete what does not land. You present a version of your life that is digestible, likable, impressive enough, but not threatening. You are performing for an audience of hundreds or thousands, and you are monitoring their response constantly. And then there is the you when you are alone, the one who is exhausted from all the other versions, the one who does not know anymore which version is real, the one who feels empty even when the performance goes well, especially when the performance goes well, because you got what you wanted, their approval, and it still didn't fill the void. You are shape-shifting so rapidly and so often that you have forgotten your original shape. You are a chameleon who can match any background but cannot remember its own color. And this forgetting has a cost. You have tolerated relationships that drain you because you are afraid of being alone. You have stayed in friendships where you feel unseen because at least you are included. You have remained in romantic partnerships where you diminish yourself because you are terrified they will leave if you stop performing. You have accepted scraps of affection and called it love. You have normalized being treated as optional while treating others as essential. You have postponed your dreams because they might look ridiculous to someone else. You wanted to write, but you are afraid it will not be good enough. You wanted to start a business, but you are worried about what people will say if you fail. You wanted to make art, but you do not think you have talent. You wanted to change careers, but you fear the judgment of people who have known you as one thing for so long. So you have stayed small. You have stayed safe. You have stayed in the narrow corridor of what is acceptable and expected and approved. You have erased boundaries because having boundaries might make someone uncomfortable. Someone asks for your time and you say yes, even though you are depleted. Someone crosses a line and you stay silent because you do not want to create conflict. Someone disrespects you and you smile through it because calling it out might make you seem difficult or sensitive or too much. You have learned to tolerate the intolerable in service of being liked. And what has this cost you? Time. Years of your life spent trying to become acceptable to people who were never going to fully see you anyway. Hours every day lost to scrolling, checking, refreshing, monitoring your social capital. Time you could have spent creating, connecting, growing, living. Energy. The constant performance is draining you. You are running on empty, fueling yourself with caffeine and anxiety, pushing through exhaustion because you cannot afford to let anyone see you struggling. You cannot be weak. You cannot be messy. You cannot be human. Not if you want to keep their approval, authenticity. You have become so skilled at performing that you do not know what is true anymore. Do you actually like this? Or do you like it because they like it? Is this your opinion? Or is it the opinion that will make you most acceptable? Who are you when no one is watching? You do not know. You haven't spent time with that person in years. Joy. You achieve something real, and the first thing you feel is not pride or satisfaction or happiness. The first thing you feel is the need to share it, to post it, to tell someone. And until you do, until they react, until they validate it, the achievement feels incomplete, hollow, like it does not count. Your joy is borrowed, your celebration is outsourced. Nothing feels real until someone else confirms it. Power. You have given away your power every time you look to them to tell you if you are enough. Every time you changed your truth to match their comfort. Every time you silenced yourself to keep the peace. Every time you made yourself smaller so they could feel bigger. You are powerful. But you have been living as though you are powerless, as though your worth is up for debate, as though you need their permission to exist. Connection. The cruelest irony is that the very behavior you use to try to create connection actually prevents it, because you cannot truly connect with someone when you are performing for them. You cannot be loved for who you are if you are hiding who you are. So you are surrounded by people and still feel alone. You have relationships, but no real intimacy, because intimacy requires truth, and you have been trading your truth for approval. This is the architecture of your cage. The bars are made of belief. The lock is made of fear. And the key has been in your pocket the entire time. You built this cage yourself, not because you are weak or broken, but because at some point it served you. At some point this strategy worked. It kept you safe. It earned you love. It helped you belong in a world that felt dangerous without belonging. But the strategy that saved you then is killing you now. You are no longer a child who needs approval to survive. You are no longer dependent on others for your basic needs. You are no longer in an environment where rejection means abandonment. But your nervous system has not updated its software. It is still running the old program, still treating every hint of disapproval as a threat to your survival. And so you stay small. You stay safe. You stay in the cage, even though the door is open. How much of your life have you already given away? How many more years will you spend performing? How much longer will you wait for permission that will never come? These are not rhetorical questions. They are invitations to reckon with the truth, to count the cost, to feel the weight of what you have been carrying. You cannot change this pattern by pretending it does not hurt. You cannot transform by staying comfortable. You have to see it. All of it. The ways you shrink, the ways you perform, the ways you abandon yourself over and over in service of being liked. You have to see what it has cost you, what it is still costing you, what it will continue to cost you if you do not choose something different. This is uncomfortable. This seeing, this clarity. But discomfort is not the same as harm. Discomfort is the sensation of waking up, of coming back to yourself, of recognizing that you have been asleep at the wheel of your own life. You are awake now. You see the cage. You see how you built it. You see how you have maintained it. And now you get to decide what comes next. Understanding what you see now requires going back, not to dwell there, not to blame, but to understand. Because this hunger for approval didn't appear randomly. It was planted, cultivated, wired into you by experience and biology, by environment and evolution. And when you understand where it came from, you can stop seeing it as a personal failure and start seeing it as a brilliant survival strategy that has simply outlived its usefulness. You were not born needing their approval. You were born whole, complete, worthy simply because you existed. Watch an infant. They do not perform. They do not adjust their behavior based on who is watching. They cry when they need something. They smile when they feel joy. They exist without apology, without strategy, without fear of rejection. And then something happened. You cannot always remember the exact moment. Sometimes it was not one moment, but 1,000 small moments that accumulated like sediment, layer upon layer, until the belief was solid. But somewhere in your early years, love started to feel conditional. Approval started to feel like something you had to earn rather than something you could assume. Maybe it was the parent who went silent when you did something wrong. Not angry, not yelling, just silent. And that silence felt like disappearance, like you had made yourself so unacceptable that they could not even look at you. Your developing brain learned, when I am not good, love goes away. When I am not pleasing, I am not safe. Maybe it was the parent who praised you excessively when you achieved, but barely noticed you when you simply existed. Straight A's earned celebration. Being yourself earned nothing. Your brain learned, my worth is tied to my performance. I am only valuable when I am impressive. Maybe it was the parent who needed you to be happy so they could feel okay, who could not handle your sadness or your anger or your fear, who needed you to be easy, to be fine, to not need too much. Your brain learned, my feelings are a burden. I must hide my truth to keep the peace. Love is something I earn by being low maintenance. Or maybe it was outside your family, the friend group that excluded you, suddenly with no explanation. One day you belonged. The next day you did not. You never understood why. You only knew it felt like death, like exile, like proof that you were fundamentally unacceptable. Your brain learned, belonging is fragile. One wrong move and I am out. I must monitor constantly. I must not make mistakes. Maybe it was the teacher who praised the other student for the exact thing you had just done. You raised your hand. You gave the right answer. But they called on someone else. They celebrated someone else. And you felt invisible, unworthy of notice. Your brain learned, I am not special. I must try harder. I must be better. Maybe then I will be seen. Maybe it was the first time you shared something true and vulnerable and someone laughed, or dismissed it, or used it against you later. You opened your chest and showed them your heart, and they did not handle it with care. Your brain learned, the truth is dangerous. Vulnerability leads to pain. I must protect myself by performing, by hiding, by only showing what is safe. These moments taught you to edit yourself, to monitor the audience, to adjust your truth based on what was acceptable. Your brain, brilliant and adaptive, created a strategy. If I can just figure out what they want and become that, I will be safe. If I can just be perfect enough, good enough, pleasing enough, I will be loved. I will belong. I will not be abandoned. And for a while, it worked. You learned to read the room, to sense what was needed, to shapeshift accordingly. And you were rewarded for it. Your parents were pleased when you behaved. Your teachers praised you when you performed. Your friends included you when you mirrored them. The strategy was validated, reinforced, wired deeper into your neural pathways with every success. But here is what your young brain didn't understand. This strategy was solving the wrong problem. The problem was not that you were not good enough. The problem was that you were in an environment where love felt conditional, where acceptance depended on performance, where belonging required conformity. The problem was outside you, but you made it about you, because that is what children do. Children cannot afford to see their caregivers as flawed or their environment as unsafe. So they make themselves the problem, because if I am the problem, then I can fix it. If I just try harder, do better, be more, then I will finally be safe. This was not a choice. This was survival. And it is not just your personal history. It is your biology, your evolutionary inheritance. Your ancestors lived in small tribes, where social rejection was a death sentence. If you were cast out of the group, you did not survive. You could not hunt alone. You could not defend yourself alone. You could not raise children alone. Belonging was not optional. It was survival. So your brain evolved to treat social rejection as a mortal threat. The same neural pathways that process physical pain process social pain. The same stress hormones that flood your system when you are in physical danger flood your system when you feel rejected. Your amygdala, the ancient alarm system in your brain, cannot distinguish between being chased by a predator and being ignored by your peer group. Both register as danger. Both trigger the fight-or-flight response. This made perfect sense for your ancestors. If rejection meant death, then being hypervigilant about social approval kept you alive. Monitoring the group's response to you, adjusting your behavior to maintain belonging, seeking signs that you were valued and included. This was adaptive. This was smart. But you do not live in that world anymore. You live in a world where social rejection will not kill you, where you can survive and even thrive without the approval of every person you encounter, where being cast out of one group does not mean being cast out of all groups, where you have resources, options, alternatives, but your nervous system has not updated. It is still running ancient software in a modern world. It still treats disapproval as danger. It still interprets criticism as threat. It still floods you with cortisol when someone does not like you, as though your life depends on their approval. And this is where the addiction begins. When someone approves of you, your brain releases dopamine, the reward chemical, the same chemical released when you eat food or have sex or use drugs. Approval feels good. It registers in your brain as success, as safety, as proof that you are okay. So you seek it again. You crave it. You structure your life around getting that hit. When someone criticizes you or rejects you, your brain releases cortisol, the stress hormone. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing shallows. Your body prepares for danger. Rejection feels bad. It registers in your brain as failure, as threat, as proof that you are in danger. So you do whatever it takes to avoid it. This cycle, dopamine from approval, cortisol from rejection, creates a chemical addiction. You are not weak for seeking validation. You are responding to a neurochemical reward system that has been millions of years in the making. Your brain has learned that approval equals survival, and rejection equals danger. And it will do everything in its power to seek the former and avoid the latter. This is not a character flaw, this is biology. But biology is not destiny, because the same brain that learned this pattern can learn a new one. The same nervous system that treats rejection as danger can be retrained to recognize that you are safe. The same neural pathways that wire you for approval seeking can be rewired for self-validation. But first, you have to stop seeing your need for validation as something wrong with you. You have to see it for what it is, a brilliant, adaptive strategy that helped you survive an environment where love was conditional and belonging was uncertain. Your younger self did the best they could with the information and resources available. They created a system to keep you safe, to keep you loved, to keep you connected. And it worked. For a while. But that younger self could not see the future. Could not see that the strategy that kept you safe then would become the cage that confines you now. Could not see that you would grow into an adult with agency and options and the ability to survive without everyone's approval. That younger self gave you a gift, the gift of survival, the gift of making it this far. And now it is your turn to give them something back, the gift of rest, the gift of saying, "Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for trying so hard. But I've got it from here. You do not have to monitor anymore. You do not have to perform anymore. You do not have to be perfect anymore. We are safe now. We are enough now. We can let this go now. This is not about blame, not about making your parents wrong, or your teachers wrong, or your friends wrong. They were doing the best they could with their own wounds and limitations. They were running their own survival strategies. They were trapped in their own cages. This is about understanding, about seeing the full picture, about recognizing that your hunger for approval made sense given the context, that it served a purpose, that it protected you, and that now, with new information and new tools and new awareness, you get to choose something different. You get to update the software. You get to teach your nervous system that rejection is not death, that disapproval is not danger, that you can survive and thrive even when someone does not like you. You get to become the source of your own approval, the origin of your own worth, the authority on your own value. Not because the old strategy was bad, but because you have outgrown it. Like a child outgrows their clothes, the clothes were perfect for a time. They fit, they served their purpose. But now they are too small. Now they restrict rather than protect. Now it is time for something new. What if your need for validation is not a weakness, but a brilliant survival strategy that has outlived its usefulness? What if the very thing you have been ashamed of is actually evidence of your resilience, your adaptability, your intelligence? What if you have been judging yourself for something that deserves compassion? You are not broken. You never were. You are a human being with an ancient nervous system trying to navigate a modern world. You are a person who learned early that love was conditional and spent your life trying to meet the conditions. You are someone who did what you had to do to survive, to belong, to be loved. And now you are ready to do something different. Not because you were wrong before, but because you are ready now. Ready to let the old strategy rest. Ready to build a new way of being in the world. Ready to come home to yourself. The journey from dependence to freedom is not a single leap. It is a series of stages, each with its own terrain, its own challenges, its own rewards. Understanding where you are right now and where you are going makes the path less overwhelming and more navigable. You are not starting from nowhere. You are somewhere on this map already, and every level forward is progress, even when it feels difficult. Let's name the stages so you can see yourself clearly and know what comes next. Level 1 is unconscious dependence. This is where you do not even realize you are living for others. Your identity is so completely externally defined that you cannot separate what you want from what they want. You do not question whether you should seek approval. It is simply how you operate. Like breathing, like gravity. You do not think about it because you have never known another way. At this level, you make decisions by consulting an invisible panel of judges. What would my parents think? What would my friends say? What would my boss expect? What would look good to others? These questions run automatically in the background of every choice. You do not hear them as questions. They are just the lens through which you see the world. In your body, this level feels normal. You do not notice the tension because it is baseline. You do not recognize the exhaustion as exhaustion because you have always been this tired. You think everyone lives this way. You think this is just what it means to be responsible, to be considerate, to care about others. In relationships, you are a mirror. You reflect what people want to see. You adapt seamlessly to different contexts. You are whoever you need to be to maintain connection. And you do not see this as performance because you do not know there is a backstage. You think this is your authentic self. Most people live here for years, decades. Some people live here for their entire lives. Not because they are weak or unaware, but because the system works well enough. They maintain relationships. They avoid major conflict. They get by. And getting by can feel like enough when you do not know that freedom is possible. Level 2 is conscious dependence. This is where you wake up, where you start to see the pattern. You recognize that you are living for their approval. You notice how exhausting it is. You feel the gap between who you are and who you perform to be. You understand intellectually that you are trapped. But understanding does not equal ability. You see the cage, but you do not yet know how to open it. You recognize the pattern, but feel powerless to change it. This is awareness without agency, insight without transformation. At this level, you make decisions the same way you always have, but now you feel guilty about it. You still seek approval, but you judge yourself for seeking it. You still perform, but you resent the performance. You are aware of your dependence, and the awareness makes it more painful, not less. In your body, this level feels heavy, like carrying a weight you can see but cannot put down. Your chest feels tight with the knowledge of your own cage. Your stomach churns with frustration at yourself. You are awake to the problem, but not yet awake to the solution. In relationships, you start to feel resentful. You notice how often you abandon yourself. You see how one-sided some connections are. You feel angry at others for not seeing you, even though you have never shown them who you really are. You want to change, but you are terrified of what change might cost. This is where most people get stuck, trapped between awareness and action. They know they need to stop seeking validation, but they do not know how. They see the problem clearly, but the solution feels impossible. They are paralyzed by fear. Fear of rejection, fear of loneliness, fear of disappointing others, fear of who they might become if they stop performing. This level is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. You cannot skip it. You have to see the cage before you can escape it. You have to feel the cost before you are willing to pay the price of freedom. This is the stage where you gather your courage, where you decide that staying small is more painful than risking growth. Level 3 is uncomfortable independence. This is where you start choosing yourself, but it feels terrible. It feels selfish. It feels wrong. It feels like you are becoming a bad person. The guilt is overwhelming. Every boundary you set feels like betrayal. Every time you prioritize your needs, you feel like you are hurting someone else. At this level, you make different decisions, but you second-guess all of them. You say no, then spend hours wondering if you should have said yes. You speak your truth, then immediately want to take it back. You choose yourself, then feel sick with anxiety about how they are reacting. In your body, this level feels like war. Your old wiring is screaming that you are in danger. Your nervous system is firing alarm signals because you are doing something your biology interprets as social suicide. You feel nauseous, shaky, unsteady, like you are walking a tightrope with no net. In relationships, things get messy. People who liked the old version of you push back against the new version. Some relationships end. Some people get angry. Some withdraw, and every loss feels like confirmation that you were right to be afraid. That choosing yourself means losing connection. that independence equals loneliness. But here is what you learn at this level. You survive it. The rejection you feared does not kill you. The disapproval you avoided does not destroy you. Some people leave, but the right people stay. And the ones who stay see you more clearly, love you more genuinely, because you are finally real with them. This level is not meant to be permanent. It is the bridge, the transition, the awkward middle stage where you are building new muscles and the old ones are still trying to take over. You are learning to walk in a new way, and new walking always feels unstable at first. The trap here is giving up too soon. Deciding that freedom is not worth the discomfort. Retreating back to level 2 or even level 1, because at least there you knew how to operate. But if you push through, if you keep choosing yourself, even when it feels wrong, you eventually arrive somewhere different. Level 4 is confident independence. This is where it starts to feel natural, where you consistently choose your own approval first, where others' opinions inform you but do not control you, where you have internalized the practice so deeply that you do not have to think about it anymore. At this level, you make decisions by checking in with yourself first. What do I actually think about this? What do I actually want? What aligns with my values? You still consider others' perspectives, but they are data points, not directives. You listen, you reflect, you weigh the information, and then you decide based on what feels true to you. In your body, this level feels solid, grounded, stable. Your nervous system has updated its programming. It has learned through repeated experience that you are safe even when someone disapproves, that you can handle rejection, that you do not need everyone to like you in order to be okay. The anxiety is gone, or at least greatly diminished. You feel at home in yourself. In relationships, you are authentic. Not perfectly, not without effort, but consistently. You show up as yourself and trust that the right people will appreciate you. You set boundaries without guilt. You speak your truth without apology. You stay when it feels right and leave when it does not. And the connections you maintain are deeper because they are real. The shift that happens here is subtle but profound. You stop asking, "What will they think?" and start asking, "What do I think?" The center of gravity has moved. You are no longer externally referenced. You are internally guided. This does not mean you are selfish or isolated. It means you are sovereign. You are the authority on your own life. Level 5 is integrated freedom. This is mastery. This is where you are so secure in yourself that you can receive feedback without defensiveness or collapse. You can hear criticism and consider whether it is true without your worth being on the line. You can receive praise without clinging to it or letting it define you. You are unshakable. At this level, you make decisions with ease. Not because you always know the right answer, but because you trust yourself to navigate whatever comes. You are not rigid. You are not closed. You remain open to feedback, to growth, to change, but none of it threatens your core. None of it destabilizes your sense of self. In your body, this level feels free, light, expansive, like you are finally breathing fully after years of holding your breath. You move through the world with a quiet confidence that does not need to announce itself. You are at peace. In relationships, you are magnetic. Not because you are trying to be, but because authenticity is attractive. People are drawn to your groundedness, your realness, your lack of pretense. And the paradox is this: when you stop needing approval, you often receive more genuine respect and connection. Because people can feel the difference between someone who is performing for them and someone who is simply being themselves. You can disagree without defending. You can be misunderstood without correcting. You can be criticized without collapsing. You can be praised without inflating. You are unmoved by praise and undestroyed by criticism, not because you do not care, but because your worth is not up for negotiation. This is not a place you arrive at once and stay forever. You will still have moments where you slip back into old patterns, where you seek approval, where you people please, but you will catch yourself faster. Course correct with compassion, return to center more quickly. So where are you right now? Can you locate yourself on this map? If you are at level 1, your task is to wake up, to start noticing the pattern, to become aware of how much of your life is externally defined. If you are at level 2, your task is to build courage, to move from awareness to action, to take the first small step toward choosing yourself, even though it feels impossible. If you are at level 3, your task is to persist, to keep choosing yourself even when it feels wrong, to trust that the discomfort is temporary and the freedom is real. If you are at level 4, your task is to deepen, to keep practicing until self-validation becomes your default, to integrate the tools until they are second nature. If you are at level 5, your task is to maintain, to stay awake, to keep choosing yourself, to model for others what freedom looks like. You do not have to jump from where you are to where you want to be. You only have to move one level up, just one, and then one more. This is not a race, this is a journey, and every step forward is victory. What would it take to move one level up? Not 5 levels, just one. What is the next right move from where you are standing right now? That is your work, that is your path, and it is walkable. One step at a time. Now you need a tool, not theory, not more understanding. An actual practice you can use the moment the hunger arises. Something concrete, something immediate, something that gives you relief right when you need it most. This is the validation redirect, and it is simpler than you think. Here is how it works. You feel the impulse, the familiar pull toward seeking approval. It shows up in your body first, before you even think about it consciously. There is a tightness in your chest, a flutter in your stomach, an urge to check your phone, a need to explain yourself, a compulsion to follow up, to clarify, to make sure they understood, to confirm they still like you. This is the moment. Right here. This is where everything changes. Instead of reaching outward for validation, you turn inward. You interrupt the automatic pattern. You pause. You take a breath. And you ask yourself one question. What do I need to hear right now? Not what do they think. Not what will they say. Not how can I get them to approve. But what do I need to hear? What words would soothe this tension? What permission am I seeking? What reassurance am I craving? What encouragement would settle my nervous system? And then you give it to yourself. You speak to yourself with the exact words you are hoping to hear from them. You become the source instead of seeking the source. You validate your own experience before anyone else gets the chance. This sounds too simple to work. You think it will feel fake, like lying to yourself, like empty affirmations that do not touch the real need. But that is because you have never tried it with full presence and genuine feeling. When you do it right, something shifts immediately. Let's walk through exactly how this looks in real situations. Scenario 1. You post something vulnerable online. Maybe it is a personal story. Maybe it is an opinion you have been afraid to share. Maybe it is creative work you made. You hit publish, and immediately your heart starts racing. Your hand reaches for your phone. You want to check. You need to check. How many likes? Any comments? What are people saying? The urge is overwhelming. Stop. Right there. Close the app. Put the phone down. Place your hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Take 3 slow breaths, and then say out loud, "That took courage. I am proud of you for being honest." Say it like you mean it. Not in a dismissive, get over it tone, but in the tone you would use with someone you love deeply, with warmth, with sincerity, with genuine respect for how hard it was to share that truth. Feel the words as you say them. Let them land in your body. Notice what happens. The tightness in your chest loosens slightly. Your breathing deepens. The frantic need to check subsides. Not completely, maybe. Not permanently. But enough. Enough to give you space. Enough to interrupt the loop. You just gave yourself what you were about to beg them for. And your nervous system registers it. It feels the validation. It receives the approval. And the desperate seeking quiets. Scenario 2. You are in a meeting. You share an idea. You put something out there that matters to you, and it is met with silence. No one responds. No one builds on it. The conversation moves on as though you didn't speak. Your stomach drops. Shame floods your system. You feel invisible, stupid, like you said something wrong. Before you spiral, before you replay the moment 100 times, analyzing what you did wrong, before you decide you should never speak up again, pause, take 3 breaths, and think to yourself, that was a solid contribution. Their response is about them, not about the value of what I said. Feel the truth of that. They might have been distracted. They might have been stuck in their own thoughts. They might not have understood. They might have felt threatened. They might have been processing. Their silence does not determine the worth of your idea. You do. You validate your contribution before waiting for them to do it. And this changes everything. You stay grounded. You stay present. You do not collapse into shame. You do not make their lack of response mean something about your value. Scenario 3. Someone criticizes you. Maybe it is your work. Maybe it is your character. Maybe it is a choice you made. Your first instinct is to defend yourself frantically, to explain, to justify, to prove they are wrong, to win them back. The need rises like panic. Stop. Pause. Take 3 breaths. Longer breaths this time. And ask yourself, do I actually agree with this criticism? What is true here, and what is just their projection? Separate the feedback from your worth. Consider the content without attaching your identity to it. Maybe there is something useful in what they said. Maybe there is not. But either way, you are not on trial. You are simply evaluating information. If there is truth in the criticism, you can say to yourself, okay, I see that. I can learn from this. This does not make me fundamentally flawed. This makes me human and growing. If there is not truth in it, you can say to yourself, this is their interpretation, their perspective, their projection. I can let this go without needing to convince them otherwise. You give yourself permission to receive feedback without collapsing, to consider it without being destroyed by it, to take what is useful and release what is not. And you do not need them to agree with your assessment. You trust your own discernment. Scenario 4. You accomplish something significant. You work hard. You create something. You overcome something difficult. You finish something meaningful. And no one notices. No one reaches out to congratulate you. No one posts about it. No one asks about it. And you feel empty. Like it does not count. Like it is not real until someone witnesses it. Stop waiting. Stop hoping they will notice. Stop refreshing your notifications. Celebrate yourself first. Right now. Out loud if you can. In your journal if you cannot. Say it clearly. I did this. This matters. This is significant. I am proud of myself. List the specifics. What you overcame. What you learned. What it took. What it means. Give yourself the recognition you are craving. Throw yourself a private party. Light a candle. Play a song. Dance in your kitchen. Whatever makes it feel real and sacred and yours. You make the accomplishment complete by witnessing it yourself. You do not outsource your celebration. You do not wait for someone else to tell you it matters. You know it matters because you say it matters. And that is enough. This is the validation, redirect in action. Every time the impulse to seek approval arises, you redirect it inward. You give yourself what you were about to beg for. You become the source. And something profound happens neurologically when you do this consistently. Your brain has been trained to seek dopamine from external validation. The like, the compliment, the approval. These trigger a reward response in your brain, a hit of feel-good chemicals that reinforces the seeking behavior. This is the loop that keeps you hooked. But here is what most people do not understand. Your brain can receive validation from yourself. When you speak to yourself with genuine warmth and approval, when you validate your own experience with real feeling, your brain releases similar neurochemicals. The reward pathways light up, not exactly the same as external validation, but close enough that your nervous system registers it as real. This is not self-deception. This is self-attunement. You are giving yourself what you actually need to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be valued. And you are learning that you can provide this for yourself, that you do not have to wait for someone else to give you permission to feel good about yourself. The more you practice this, the more you rewire the default response. Right now, your automatic pattern is external scanning. Something happens, and you immediately look outward to see how others are responding. You check their faces. You check your phone. You check for signs of approval or disapproval. But with consistent practice of the validation redirect, your automatic pattern becomes internal checking. Something happens and you turn inward first. You ask yourself what you think, how you feel, what you need. You validate your own experience before seeking external input. This does not mean you stop caring what others think. It means you stop needing what others think in order to feel okay. Their opinions become interesting data instead of existential verdicts. You can consider them without being controlled by them. The practice is simple, but it requires commitment, because the old pattern is deeply grooved. You have been seeking external validation for years, maybe decades. Your brain has superhighways built for that pattern. The validation redirect is creating a new path, a narrow trail at first, easy to miss, easy to slip back onto the old highway. But every time you choose the new path, you widen it. You make it more accessible. You strengthen the neural connections. And eventually, with enough repetition, the new path becomes the default. The old highway is still there, but you do not automatically take it anymore. You have options. This is not about positive thinking or pretending everything is fine when it is not. This is about becoming the primary source of your own emotional regulation, about learning to validate your experience as it is, not as you wish it were, about giving yourself permission to feel what you feel, to need what you need, to be who you are. What if you already have everything you need to feel whole? What if the approval you have been seeking outside yourself is available right now, right here, from the one person who will never leave you? What if you are enough, exactly as you are, and you are the one who gets to say so? Try it, right now. Think of something you are hoping someone will notice or acknowledge or approve, and give yourself that acknowledgement first. Say the words out loud, feel them, mean them, let them land. Notice what happens in your body. Notice the subtle shift, the slight softening, the small relief. That is real. That is your nervous system responding to your own care. That is the beginning of freedom. The validation redirect is your foundation. But a single tool is not enough to sustain transformation. You need a complete system, a toolkit you can draw from depending on what the moment requires. These are the advanced practices that deepen your foundation and expand your capacity for self-validation until it becomes effortless, automatic, unshakable. Tool 1 is the preemptive validation journal. This is how you start your day from a place of fullness instead of hunger. Each morning, before you check your phone, before you engage with the world, you write down 3 things you will need to hear today based on what you are facing. You look at your schedule. You consider the challenges ahead, the difficult conversation, the presentation, the creative work, the social gathering, whatever is coming that might trigger your approval-seeking pattern, and you give yourself the validation before you need it. You write the exact words you would want to hear. You are prepared for this meeting. Your work has value, even if they do not see it. You are allowed to take up space. You can handle whatever feedback comes. You are worthy of rest. Your boundaries are valid. Write them in second person, as though you are speaking to someone you care about deeply. Because you are speaking to yourself, and the words need to feel true, not like empty platitudes. They need to meet the actual fear or need underneath. Then read them back to yourself out loud, slowly. Let them settle into your body. Feel them. Believe them. This is not magical thinking. This is preparation. You are preloading your nervous system with the validation it will crave later, so that when the moment comes, you are already full. You do not need to seek. You have already received. Watch what happens to your energy. You walk into the day with more confidence, more groundedness, more willingness to take risks, because you are not starting from a deficit. You are starting from sufficiency. Tool 2 is the opinion audit. This is how you get ruthlessly clear about whose voices actually matter. Sit down with a blank page. At the top, write this question: whose opinions about my life do I actually value and why? Then make the list. Be honest. Be specific. Write the names and write the reasons. Maybe it is your mentor, because they have walked the path you are on. Maybe it is your partner, because they see you fully and love you anyway. Maybe it is your closest friend, because they have earned your trust over years. Maybe it is yourself. Look at the list. Notice how small it is when you are honest. 5 names. Maybe 10. Out of the hundreds or thousands of people whose approval you have been subconsciously seeking, only a handful actually matter. Now recognize this clearly. Everyone else's opinion is irrelevant data. Not wrong, not bad, just irrelevant to your life and your choices. You do not need to convince them. You do not need to perform for them. You do not need to explain yourself to them. They are not on your list. Practice this phrase until it becomes automatic. That is interesting feedback from someone whose opinion I have not actively sought. Say it in your head when the stranger on the internet criticizes you. Say it when the distant relative judges your choices. Say it when the colleague who does not know you makes an assumption. Let it be a boundary, a shield, a reminder that not all feedback deserves your attention or your emotional energy. This is not arrogance. This is discernment. You cannot care deeply about everyone's opinion and still have energy left to live your life. You get to choose whose voices you let in, and everyone else can think whatever they want. It does not have to touch you. Tool 3 is the validation budget. This is how you reclaim your time and attention from the endless scroll. Decide in advance how much mental energy you will spend seeking approval today. Set a specific limit. Maybe 3 minutes of checking responses after you post something. Maybe checking social media twice instead of 20 times. Maybe allowing yourself one scroll through the comments, and then you are done. The key is deciding before the urge hits, because once you are in the dopamine loop, your willpower is compromised. But if you have set the boundary in advance, you have something to come back to. You check once, the timer goes off, you close the app, you redirect. At first, this will feel almost impossible. Your brain will scream for one more check, one more refresh, one more scroll. Let it scream. Acknowledge the discomfort without acting on it. Say to yourself, I see you. I know you want validation. But we have already decided. We are done for now. Track the time you reclaim. Those hours you were losing to the scroll and refresh cycle. What could you do with that time? What could you create? Who could you connect with face to face? What could you experience if you were present instead of performing and monitoring? The validation budget is not about never seeking feedback. It is about being intentional instead of compulsive. It is about taking back control over where your attention goes. Tool 4 is the mirror practice. This is the most vulnerable and the most powerful. Stand in front of a mirror. Look yourself in the eyes and speak to yourself as you would to someone you deeply love. Say the exact things you are desperate to hear from others. I see you. You are enough. You are trying so hard. I am proud of you. You are worthy of love. You do not have to be perfect. You are allowed to rest. I believe in you. At first, this will feel ridiculous, uncomfortable, fake. You will want to laugh it off, or look away, or skip it entirely. Do it anyway. Stay with the discomfort. Keep looking. Keep speaking. Let the awkwardness be there. And then something will shift. Your eyes might fill with tears. Your chest might crack open. You might feel a wave of grief for how long you have been waiting to hear these words from someone else, when you could have been giving them to yourself all along. Let yourself feel moved by your own care. Let your own voice become the one that matters most. Do this practice daily until it stops feeling strange and starts feeling like coming home. Your reflection is always there, always accessible, always willing to see you. You do not have to wait for someone else to show up. You can show up for yourself. Tool 5 is the boundary dress rehearsal. This is how you build courage before the stakes are high. You have a challenging interaction coming, a conversation where you need to set a boundary or speak a difficult truth or say no. You are afraid of their reaction. afraid they will be upset or disappointed or pull away. Before the interaction happens, practice saying what you really think out loud. Stand alone in your room and speak the words as though they are sitting in front of you. Feel the discomfort of potential disapproval in a safe space where nothing is actually at risk. Say it once, then say it again with more clarity. Say it a third time with more groundedness. Notice what happens in your body each time. The first time your voice might shake. The second time you might feel steadier. The third time you might feel something close to conviction. This is building the muscle of choosing authenticity over approval before the real moment arrives. You are teaching your nervous system that speaking your truth does not kill you, that you can survive their reaction, that you are strong enough to hold your boundary even if they push back. When the actual conversation happens, it will still be hard. But you will have rehearsed, you will have felt the fear, and spoken anyway. And that repetition matters. It creates a neural pathway. It proves to yourself that you can do this. Tool 6 is the celebration ritual. This is how you train your nervous system to find joy in private victories. Create a personal ritual for acknowledging your wins that does not involve posting them or telling anyone. Something that is just for you. Something sacred and private and yours. Maybe you light a candle and sit with it for 5 minutes, reflecting on what you accomplished. Maybe you play a song that feels victorious and dance alone in your kitchen. Maybe you write the win in a private journal with detail and gratitude. Maybe you take yourself out for your favorite meal. Maybe you buy yourself flowers. Maybe you stand outside under the sky and say thank you to yourself. The specifics do not matter. What matters is that you are training yourself to complete the victory loop without external witnesses. You are teaching your brain that private success is just as real and just as worthy of celebration as public success. You are proving to yourself that your joy does not depend on someone else noticing. Do this consistently. Every time you accomplish something, no matter how small, mark it somehow, privately, just for you. Watch how this changes your relationship to achievement. Watch how your motivation shifts from external validation to internal satisfaction. These 6 tools work together to create a complete system. The preemptive validation journal prepares you. The opinion audit protects you. The validation budget frees you. The mirror practice roots you. The boundary dress rehearsal strengthens you. The celebration ritual completes you. You do not need to do all of them every day. You choose the tools that meet the moment. But having them all available means you are never without support. You always have something to reach for when the old pattern tries to take over. Which tool calls to you most strongly right now? Which one feels like it would make the biggest difference in your life today? Start there. Master that one. Then add another. Build your toolkit slowly and intentionally until self-validation becomes as natural as breathing. You are no longer fragile. You are becoming resilient. You are building a foundation that cannot be shaken by someone's opinion or silence or rejection. You are becoming whole. Tools and techniques will carry you far. But if you want lasting transformation, you need more than willpower. You need to build a life that makes seeking validation harder and choosing yourself easier. You need to design your environment, your routines, your relationships, and your daily rhythms to support your sovereignty instead of undermining it. This is how change becomes sustainable. This is how freedom becomes permanent. Foundation 1 is curating your inputs, You need to recognize that the media you consume either reinforces approval-seeking or supports sovereignty. There is no neutral content. Everything you watch, read, scroll through is programming your subconscious with messages about what matters, what success looks like, who you should be. Look at your social media feeds right now. Notice how many accounts make you feel inadequate. How many make you compare your life to their highlight reel? How many make you feel behind, not enough, less than? These accounts are feeding your approval-seeking pattern. They are designed to make you feel insufficient, so you will keep chasing, keep consuming, keep seeking external validation. Unfollow them. Be ruthless. You do not owe anyone your attention. You do not have to keep consuming content that makes you feel small, even if they are friends, even if it seems petty. Your mental environment matters more than their feelings about your follow count. Follow people who model self-assured authenticity instead. People who share their real struggles, not just their polished wins. People who speak their truth even when it is unpopular. People who seem grounded in themselves rather than performing for an audience. Let your feed become a reflection of the person you are becoming, not a reminder of who you think you should be. Notice what happens when you clean up your inputs. Your need for validation decreases. Your anxiety lessens. You stop comparing so obsessively. You feel more spacious, more like yourself. This is not coincidence. You stopped feeding yourself content designed to make you feel inadequate. You stopped letting algorithms exploit your insecurity for engagement. Foundation 2 is choosing relationships wisely. Your relationships either support your freedom or reinforce your cage. You need people who love you for who you are, not who you perform to be. Look at your closest relationships. Do these people see you? Do they celebrate your authenticity? Or do they subtly punish you for changing, for growing, for no longer playing the role they assigned you? Do you feel free to be yourself with them, or are you performing even in your most intimate connections? Distance yourself from relationships where acceptance feels conditional, where love is contingent on you being easy, agreeable, non-threatening, where you have to shrink to maintain connection. These relationships are feeding your approval, seeking pattern even if the people in them are not consciously trying to control you. Seek out people who make you feel more like yourself, not less. People who do not need you to be anyone other than who you are. People who can handle your full range of emotions. People who stay even when you set boundaries. People who celebrate your growth instead of resenting it. Practice being your full, unedited self with safe people. Share the thoughts you usually censor. Express the feelings you usually hide. Take up space. Be messy. Be honest. Let them see you without the performance, and watch what happens. The right people will love you more deeply. They will feel closer to you, not farther. They will thank you for trusting them with your truth. Let the right people prove that you are lovable as you are, not as you perform to be, not as you think you should be, but as you actually are. This is how you update the belief that love is conditional, by experiencing unconditional acceptance from people who matter. Foundation 3 is developing internal metrics. You need to create your own definition of success that has nothing to do with likes, titles, or recognition. Sit down and ask yourself, what makes a day meaningful to me personally? Not to my parents, not to society, not to the version of success sold to you by culture, but to you. Actually you, the one who lives inside your body and knows what brings you alive. Maybe it is making something with your hands. Maybe it is having one real conversation. Maybe it is spending time in nature. Maybe it is moving your body. Maybe it is learning something new. Maybe it is helping someone without anyone knowing. Maybe it is sitting in silence. Maybe it is playing with your children. Maybe it is writing in your journal. Define it clearly. Write it down. Then track your alignment with these values instead of tracking your popularity. At the end of each day, do not ask yourself, how many likes did I get? Ask yourself, did I live according to what actually matters to me? This is how you reclaim your attention from the external scoreboard. This is how you stop letting algorithms and social metrics define whether you had a good day. You decide what counts. You create the rubric. You measure yourself against your own values, not their approval. Foundation 4 is building a practice of solitude. You need to spend regular time completely alone without distractions. No phone, no music, no podcast, no book. Just you and yourself in the same space with nowhere to hide. This terrifies most people because they have been avoiding themselves for years. They have kept themselves so busy and so distracted that they do not know who they are anymore. The thought of being alone with their own thoughts feels unbearable. But this is essential. You cannot become internally referenced if you never spend time internally. You cannot validate yourself if you do not know yourself. You have to sit with yourself regularly and learn to enjoy your own company so thoroughly that others' presence becomes optional, not essential. Start small. 10 minutes a day. Sit somewhere quiet. No devices. Just breathe and be with yourself. Notice what comes up. The discomfort, the restlessness, the urge to reach for something, anything, to fill the space. Let it be there. Do not fix it. Just observe. Over time, extend the practice. Go for a walk alone without headphones. Eat a meal alone without scrolling. Spend an entire afternoon with no one else and no distractions. Discover who you are when no one is watching. What you think, what you feel, what you want, what brings you peace. This is where you meet yourself. This is where you build the relationship that will sustain you through everything else. This is how you become your own best company. Foundation 5 is developing mastery in something private. Choose a skill or craft that you pursue purely for yourself. Something you will never post about, never seek feedback on, never monetize, never perform for an audience. Maybe it is painting. Maybe it is woodworking. Maybe it is gardening. Maybe it is playing an instrument. Maybe it is learning a language. Maybe it is cooking. Whatever calls to you. Whatever feels like it would be satisfying simply for the sake of doing it. The rule is this. It stays private. You do not share your progress. You do not ask for validation. You do not turn it into content. You let it exist as proof that you can do things simply because they matter to you, not because they will impress someone else. Experience the deep satisfaction of improvement for its own sake. Notice how good it feels to get better at something with no external reward, no applause, no recognition, just you and the craft and the quiet joy of mastery. This is intrinsic motivation. This is what it feels like to be driven by internal fulfillment instead of external validation. And this practice bleeds into everything else. You start to realize you do not need an audience to justify your efforts. You do not need validation to make something worthwhile. You can create, grow, learn, become simply because you want to. This is freedom. Foundation 6 is creating morning and evening anchors. You need to bookend your days with self-connection, so you are less vulnerable to external validation during the chaos in between. Every morning, before you check your phone, check in with yourself. Place your hand on your chest. Take 3 deep breaths. Ask yourself, how am I feeling today? What do I need? What matters most today? Give yourself a moment of presence before you give your attention to the world. Every evening, before you scroll or watch or distract, reflect on moments you chose yourself over approval. Write them down if it helps. I said no to something I did not want to do. I shared my real opinion, even though it was unpopular. I celebrated my win privately before posting it. I did not check my phone for validation. Acknowledge these moments. Honor them. Let them accumulate as evidence that you are changing, that you are choosing differently, that you are free. These anchors keep you tethered to yourself when everything else is pulling you outward. They remind you who you are before the world tells you who to be. They bring you home to yourself at the end of the day, regardless of how others responded to you. Foundation 7 is recognizing that financial independence supports validation, independence. This is uncomfortable to name, but it is true. It is harder to be yourself when your survival depends on pleasing others, when you need their approval to keep your job, to pay your rent, to feed your family. Work toward economic stability that lets you make choices based on values, not fear. Build savings, reduce debt, develop skills that increase your options, create multiple income streams if possible. Not so you can be rich, but so you can be free. Free to set boundaries, free to speak truth, free to walk away from situations that require you to abandon yourself. This does not happen overnight, but it is a long-term foundation that matters, because the more economically secure you are, the less you need to perform for survival, the more you can choose alignment over approval. What is one environmental change you could make this week that would make seeking validation harder and choosing yourself easier? Not 10 changes, just one. What structure could you put in place that would support your transformation automatically? This is how change becomes sustainable, not through willpower, but through design. You build a life that makes freedom the path of least resistance. You need to understand why this works, not just believe it, but know it. Because when the practice gets difficult, when you slip back into old patterns, when doubt creeps in, you need more than hope. You need evidence. You need to know that this transformation is grounded in neuroscience, backed by research, proven by how your brain and body actually function. This is not willpower. This is not positive thinking. This is brain science. Let's start with what happens in your brain when you receive social approval. When someone likes your post, compliments your work, agrees with your opinion, validates your experience, a specific region of your brain lights up. The ventral striatum. This is the same region that activates when you eat food, have sex, or use addictive drugs. It is your reward center, your pleasure hub, and it releases dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter, the chemical that says, yes, more of this. This is good. This keeps us alive. Dopamine creates motivation. It drives seeking behavior. It makes you want to repeat whatever action led to the reward. This made perfect evolutionary sense for your ancestors. Social bonds meant survival. Being accepted by the tribe meant access to food, protection, mating opportunities, collective resources. Being rejected meant isolation, vulnerability, likely death. So your brain evolved to treat social approval as a survival signal. It learned to reward you chemically for behaviors that increased acceptance, and to punish you, chemically, for behaviors that risked rejection. The problem is your brain cannot distinguish between vital approval and trivial approval. It treats a stranger's opinion on the internet like life or death. It responds to a lack of likes on your post with the same threat detection system that would activate if you were being chased by a predator. Your ancient wiring is running in a modern context it was never designed for. And this creates the addiction loop. You post something, you get likes, dopamine floods your system. You feel good. Your brain says, "Do that again." So you post again. You check for responses. You refresh. You seek the hit. And when the likes do not come as quickly or as abundantly, you feel the crash, the absence of dopamine, the disappointment, the anxiety. So you seek again. You adjust. You perform differently. You try to optimize for the reward. This is not a metaphor. This is a literal addiction loop happening in your brain. The same mechanisms that drive drug addiction, food addiction, gambling addiction are driving your approval-seeking behavior. And like any addiction, it escalates. You need more to feel the same reward. More likes, more validation, more confirmation that you are okay. Now let's talk about what happens when you do not receive approval, when you are criticized, rejected, ignored. Your amygdala activates. This is the small, almond-shaped structure deep in your brain, responsible for threat detection. It is always scanning your environment for danger. And it has learned through evolution and personal experience that social rejection is dangerous. When your amygdala detects disapproval, it triggers your stress response. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing becomes shallow. Cortisol floods your system. This is the same physiological cascade that happens when you are in physical danger. And here is the remarkable part. Research shows that social pain activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. When you feel rejected, your brain processes it similarly to being physically hurt. This is why criticism feels so visceral. Why disapproval lands in your body like a punch. Why being excluded or ignored creates actual ache in your chest. It is not dramatic. It is not weakness. It is your pain pathways lighting up because your brain has categorized social rejection as a form of harm. And when you are chronically seeking approval, your amygdala is chronically activated. You are in a constant state of hypervigilance, scanning for threats, monitoring for signs of rejection, analyzing every interaction for evidence of whether you are safe or in danger. This keeps your nervous system in sympathetic activation. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. You cannot rest. You cannot relax. You cannot think clearly because your system believes you are under threat. The cortisol that floods your system during this chronic stress has real consequences. It disrupts your sleep. It impairs your memory. It weakens your immune system. It clouds your judgment. It makes you reactive instead of responsive. This is why you cannot make good decisions when you are desperate for approval. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking and long-term planning, is offline. Your survival brain has taken over. This is exhausting. This is why approval-seeking drains you so completely. You are running a stress response system that was designed for short-term threats as though it were a permanent state of being. Your body was not built for this, and it is breaking down under the weight. But here is the extraordinary news. Your brain is not fixed. It is plastic. Neuroplasticity means your brain can change, can rewire, can build new pathways throughout your entire life. The patterns you have now are not permanent. They are simply well worn, and you can build new patterns through consistent practice. Every time you choose self-validation over external validation, you are strengthening a new neural pathway. You are creating a route for internal reference. At first, this pathway is narrow, unfamiliar, easy to miss. Your brain defaults to the old highway of external seeking because it is wide, smooth, automatic. But every repetition of the new behavior widens the new path, makes it more accessible, more automatic. Research shows that consistent practice over 60 to 90 days can create lasting change in brain structure and function. This is not anecdotal. This is measurable. Brain scans show that people who practice self-compassion and self-validation develop increased activity in regions associated with emotional regulation and decreased activity in regions associated with self-criticism and threat detection. And here is something remarkable about mirror neurons. These are neurons in your brain that fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing that action. They are how you learn through imitation, how you develop empathy, how you internalize the behavior of others. When you speak to yourself with compassion, when you validate your own experience, your mirror neurons allow you to internalize that compassionate voice as if it came from another person. Your brain does not fully distinguish between receiving validation from yourself and receiving it from someone else, especially when you do it with genuine feeling and presence. This is why the validation redirect works. You are not just pretending. You are actually activating the same neural circuits that would activate if someone you love spoke those words to you. Now let's talk about your autonomic nervous system. This is the part of your nervous system that operates below conscious awareness, regulating your heart rate, breathing, digestion, all the automatic functions that keep you alive. It has two main branches: the sympathetic nervous system, which activates your stress response, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which activates your rest and recovery response. When you are approval-seeking, you are stuck in sympathetic activation. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Your body is preparing for danger. Your heart races. Your muscles tense. Your digestion slows. Your immune system suppresses. You are ready to run or fight or collapse or please. But you cannot rest. You cannot digest properly. You cannot heal. You cannot think clearly. Self-validation activates a specific branch of your parasympathetic nervous system called the ventral vagal system. This is the system associated with safety, social connection, and presence. When this system is active, your heart rate variability increases, which is a sign of nervous system flexibility and resilience. Your breathing deepens, your muscles relax, your digestion improves, your immune system functions optimally. You can think clearly. You can connect authentically. You are present instead of performing. Teaching your body that you are safe, regardless of others' opinions, literally changes your physiology. You shift from chronic stress to sustainable ease, from hypervigilance to groundedness, from reactivity to responsiveness. This is not just psychological. This is biological transformation. Attachment theory gives us another lens. Anxious attachment patterns, developed in childhood when love felt inconsistent or conditional, drive approval-seeking in adulthood. You learned that connection was unpredictable, that you had to work for love, that your needs might be met or might be ignored depending on factors outside your control. So you developed strategies to increase the odds of receiving care. You became hyper-aware of others' moods. You learned to please, to perform, to seek constant reassurance. Secure attachment, by contrast, is the felt sense that you are worthy of love, that your needs matter, that you can depend on yourself and others. People with secure attachment do not need constant external validation because they have internalized a sense of their own worthiness. They can self-soothe, they can self-validate. They have become a secure base for themselves. The profound news is that you can earn secure attachment in adulthood through consistent self-attunement. Every time you meet your own needs, validate your own feelings, show up for yourself with reliability and compassion, you are updating your internal working model. You are proving to your nervous system that you are dependable, that you will not abandon yourself, that you are safe with you. And this transforms all your relationships. When you are securely attached to yourself, you stop clinging to others. You stop tolerating mistreatment. You stop shrinking to maintain connection. You show up as yourself and trust that the right people will meet you there. Cognitive behavioral research has documented the profound impact of self-compassion on mental health. Studies show a strong correlation between self-compassion and reduced anxiety and depression. People who validate themselves recover from setbacks faster. They are more resilient. They take more risks because failure does not threaten their worth. They have higher life satisfaction, not because their lives are objectively better, but because they are not constantly measuring themselves against external standards. Research on motivation distinguishes between intrinsic and extrinsic drivers. Intrinsic motivation comes from internal satisfaction. You do something because it matters to you, because it brings you joy, because it aligns with your values. Extrinsic motivation comes from external rewards. You do something to gain approval, recognition, money, status. Studies consistently show that intrinsic motivation leads to greater, long-term satisfaction, deeper engagement, and more sustained effort. When you shift from seeking external validation to internal validation, you shift from extrinsic to intrinsic motivation. And everything changes. Studies on authentic self-expression show similar patterns. People who feel free to be themselves report higher subjective well-being. They have better relationships. They experience less anxiety and depression. They feel more alive. Authenticity is not just a nice idea. It is measurably correlated with mental health and life satisfaction. Does it change everything to know this is brain science, not character weakness? Does it shift something to understand that your approval seeking is not a personal failing, but a biological response to ancient wiring and early conditioning? Does it give you hope to know that you can rewire, that your brain is plastic, that transformation is not just possible but documented and measurable? This is not wishful thinking. This is evidence. Your struggle is real, your pain is valid, and your capacity to change is grounded in the remarkable adaptability of your human nervous system. You are not broken. You are wired for survival. And now you get to update that wiring for thriving. Understanding the science is essential. Building the tools is crucial. Designing your environment matters. But none of it means anything until you test it under pressure, until life gets hard and you have to choose between the old pattern and the new one, until everything in you wants to collapse back into seeking, and you have to decide whether you will stay free. This is where transformation becomes real. Not in the quiet moments of practice, but in the fire, in the challenges that trigger every old wound, every ancient fear, every conditioned response. This is where you prove to yourself that you have actually changed. Challenge one is public failure. You launch something. A project, a business, a creative work, something you poured yourself into, something visible. And it flops. The numbers are bad. The response is tepid or non-existent. Everyone can see your attempt. Everyone can see your failure. The old you would spiral immediately. Shame would flood your system. You would want to hide, delete the evidence, pretend it never happened. You would replay every moment, analyzing what you did wrong, why you are not good enough, how stupid you were to try. You would make the failure mean something about your fundamental worth, and you would vow never to risk like that again. The new you does something different. You feel the disappointment. You let it be real. You do not pretend it does not hurt. But you do not make it a referendum on your value. You validate your courage for trying. You say to yourself, clearly and with feeling, that took guts. I am proud of myself for putting it out there. The outcome does not diminish the courage it took to begin. You grieve the outcome privately. You give yourself space to feel sad, frustrated, disappointed. You do not perform your grief for an audience. You do not turn your failure into content. You sit with the real feelings and let them move through you, without making them a story about your unworthiness. Then you decide what you learned, what worked, what did not, what you would do differently. You extract the lessons without extracting your dignity, and you move forward, quietly, with no defensive posts, no explanations, no justifications. You simply continue, because one failure does not define you. One setback does not end you. You are larger than any single outcome. This is freedom, the ability to fail publicly and remain internally intact. Challenge 2 is direct criticism. Someone you respect tells you that you are wrong, misguided, disappointing. They are not gentle about it. They are clear, maybe harsh, and you feel it in your body immediately. The need to defend yourself, to explain, to make them understand, to win them back. Your chest tightens, your thoughts race. You want to respond immediately to correct their perception. The old you would do exactly that. You would defend frantically. You would over-explain. You would try to convince them they are wrong about you. You would twist yourself into whatever shape might earn back their approval. And you would lose yourself in the process. The new you pauses. You take 3 breaths, long ones. You feel the flood of reactivity without acting on it. You ask yourself, what is actually true here? Do I agree with this criticism? What part of this feedback is accurate and useful? What part is their projection or their limitation or their wound? You separate the content from your worth. You consider the feedback without your identity being on trial, and you realize you can take what is useful and release what is not. You can learn from legitimate critique without collapsing under illegitimate judgment. You respond with clarity instead of desperation. Maybe you say, I hear you. I will think about what you have said. Maybe you say, I see it differently, and that is okay. Maybe you say nothing at all. But whatever you say or do not say comes from a grounded place, not from the frantic need to be understood or approved of, but from self-trust. You stay grounded in your own assessment. Their opinion is data. It is not truth. You are the authority on your life. And this criticism, whether valid or not, does not get to determine your worth. Challenge 3 is being misunderstood. People make assumptions about your character, your motives, your worth. They tell stories about you that are not true. They assign intentions you never had. They reduce you to a caricature that fits their narrative. The old you would frantically try to correct the narrative. You would explain yourself endlessly. You would gather evidence to prove your innocence or your goodness. You would exhaust yourself trying to make them see the real you. And you would fail. Because you cannot control others' perceptions. You never could. The new you recognizes this fundamental truth. You cannot make people see you clearly if they are committed to seeing you through the lens of their own wounds and projections. You can be as clear as possible, and they will still misunderstand if misunderstanding serves them somehow. So you let people be wrong about you. You give yourself permission to be misunderstood. You trust that the right people will see you clearly because they are looking with clear eyes. And the ones who cannot or will not see you accurately are not your people. Their misperception is not your emergency. You save your energy for creation instead of explanation. You build instead of defend. You move forward instead of backward. You refuse to spend your precious life force trying to convince people who have already decided what they think. This is freedom, the ability to be misunderstood and still know yourself. Challenge 4 is outgrowing relationships. You change, you evolve, you become more yourself. And some people prefer the old version, the version that was smaller, safer, more manageable. They liked you when you needed them, when you asked for their advice, when you stayed within the bounds they found comfortable. Now you are different. You set boundaries they do not like. You make choices they do not understand. You no longer play the role they assigned you, and they push back, subtly or overtly. They punish you for growing. They withdraw. They criticize. They make you feel guilty for changing. The old you would shrink back. You would apologize for growing. You would make yourself small again to keep the peace. You would abandon yourself to maintain the relationship. And you would resent it. And the relationship would die slowly from your suppressed truth. The new you does something harder and more honest. You honor what the relationship has been. You acknowledge what you have shared. You feel the grief of growing apart. But you refuse to abandon yourself. You say, clearly and with love, I have changed. I am still changing. I understand if that is difficult for you, but I cannot go back to who I was. I can only move forward as who I am becoming. You create space for people to catch up. You give them time to adjust. You remain open to connection if they can meet you where you are. But if they cannot, if they insist on keeping you in the old cage, you create distance. With love, with compassion, but firmly. Because some relationships are meant for a season, and holding on to them past their expiration hurts both people. You let them go. You trust that the space you create will be filled by people who love the real you, the full you, the growing you. Challenge 5 is success without witnesses. You achieve something significant. You overcome something difficult. You create something meaningful. And no one notices. No fanfare. No congratulations. No posts celebrating you. Silence. The old you would feel hollow. Like the achievement does not count if no one saw it. Like success is only real if it is validated externally. You would question whether it even matters. You would feel empty, waiting for someone to acknowledge what you did. The new you celebrates privately, deeply, fully. You do not wait for permission to feel proud. You do not need witnesses to make it real. You light your candle. You play your song. You stand in your kitchen and say out loud, I did this. This matters. I am proud of myself. You discover that witnessed success is not more real than private success, that your joy does not depend on others' awareness, that you can be full without anyone knowing why. And this changes everything, because now your motivation is truly internal. You do things because they matter to you, not because they will look good to others. Challenge 6 is high-stakes performance. You are in a situation where you desperately want to impress. A job interview, a first date, a pitch meeting. The opportunity matters. The pressure is immense. Everything in you wants to perform, to become whoever they want, to say the right things, to hide the parts of yourself that might not fit. The old you would contort yourself. You would perform flawlessly. You would become a version of yourself designed to win their approval. And even if you succeeded, you would wonder if they actually chose you or just the performance. The new you shows up as yourself. Nervous, maybe. Imperfect, certainly. But real. You speak your truth. You share your actual thoughts. You let them see who you are, not who you think they want. And you trust that the right fit will recognize you. That if they do not choose you, it is because you are not a match, not because you are not enough. You would rather be rejected for who you are than accepted for who you are not, because acceptance based on performance is not real acceptance. It is a cage, and you are done living in cages. Challenge 7 is social media silence. You post something authentic, something true, and it receives minimal engagement. The algorithm does not favor you. The likes do not come. You watch other posts take off while yours sits ignored. The old you would delete it in shame, or you would post something safer next time, something more palatable, more likely to perform well. You would let the algorithm train you, shape you, determine what you share. The new you remembers why you shared it. Because it was true. Because it mattered to you. Because you wanted to express something real. The response does not change that. The silence does not diminish the truth of what you said. You refuse to let an algorithm determine your self-worth. You refuse to let engagement metrics dictate what you create. You stay true, and you trust that over time, authenticity finds its audience. But even if it does not, you are okay, because you are full without their validation. Can you stay free when everything in you wants to collapse back into seeking? Can you choose yourself when the old pattern promises safety? Can you remain grounded when the pressure mounts? This is the test, and you will face it again and again. Each time you get to choose, old pattern or new one, freedom or cage, yourself or their approval. Choose yourself, every time, until it becomes effortless. You have been practicing, you have been choosing yourself, you have been redirecting, validating, building new pathways. And then one day, something remarkable happens. Something quiet but profound. You realize you did not check for approval. Not because you were white-knuckling your way through restraint. Not because you were forcing yourself not to look. But because it did not occur to you. You spoke your truth in a conversation and felt whole whether they agreed or not. You accomplished something meaningful and felt full before anyone knew. You made a decision and trusted yourself without needing consensus. This is the moment of recognition, the moment you realize you have changed. Not that you are changing, not that you are trying to change, but that you have already become someone different. Someone who defaults to internal reference instead of external validation. Someone who cares more about what you think than what they think. This is not the absence of caring what others think. You are not numb. You are not disconnected. You are not arrogant. You still value feedback. You still appreciate connection. You still listen to perspectives beyond your own. But their opinions no longer determine your worth. They inform you. They do not control you. Your nervous system has learned a new pattern. Safety no longer comes from their approval. Safety comes from self-trust, from knowing that you will not abandon yourself, from the deep, embodied certainty that you are okay, regardless of how they respond. This is not intellectual knowing. This is cellular knowing. Your body has updated its definition of safety, and everything changes because of this. You make decisions faster. You no longer run every choice through a committee of imaginary judges. You do not spiral in analysis paralysis, wondering what everyone will think. You check in with yourself. You ask what aligns with your values. You decide. You move forward. The mental energy you use to spend seeking approval is now available for actually living. Your relationships deepen because you are no longer performing. You are present. You show up as yourself, messy and real and imperfect. And this invites others to do the same. The connections you maintain are genuine because you are genuine in them. You attract people who want to know the real you, not the curated version. And you let go of relationships that required you to be someone else. Your creativity expands. You are no longer editing yourself for palatability. You create what wants to be created through you, without filtering it through the question of whether it will be liked. Your work becomes bolder, more honest, more alive, because it is yours, truly yours, not designed by committee, not shaped by fear of judgment, but emerging from your authentic self-expression. And here is the paradox. Now that you do not need approval, you often receive more genuine respect. People are drawn to your groundedness, your self-assurance, your authenticity. There is something magnetic about someone who is not trying to impress you, someone who is simply themselves without apology or performance. The validation comes, but it does not define you. You can receive compliments without clinging to them. Someone praises you, and you feel appreciation, but not dependence. You do not need to hear it again tomorrow to still feel okay about yourself. You can hold it lightly. Enjoy it. Let it go. You can receive criticism without collapsing under it. Someone disapproves, and you consider whether there is truth in what they are saying without your identity being on trial. You take what is useful. You release what is projection. You remain standing, intact, yourself. You are unmoved by praise and undestroyed by contempt. Not because you do not care, but because your center of gravity is internal. You are anchored in yourself, and nothing external can dislodge you from that anchor. Look at what you have gained through this transformation. Time, all those hours you spent seeking, checking, ruminating, refreshing, monitoring, reclaimed, available now for creation, connection, presence, joy. You have given yourself back your own attention, your own life force, your own precious, finite time, energy. The exhausting performance is over. You can rest in being yourself. You do not have to maintain multiple versions across different contexts. You do not have to calculate and adjust and shapeshift. You can simply be. And being takes so much less energy than performing. Courage. You take bigger risks now. You try things that might fail. You speak truths that might be unpopular. You create work that might be rejected, because your worth is not on the line. Failure does not threaten your fundamental okayness. So you can play, experiment, dare, grow. Connection. Your relationships are real because you are real in them. You have traded surface-level acceptance for deep, genuine intimacy with the people who can meet you where you are. Quality over quantity. Truth over performance. Love that sees you, Not love that sees your mask, joy. The deep, grounded satisfaction of living in alignment with yourself, of going to bed each night knowing you did not abandon yourself today, of waking up each morning knowing you are enough, exactly as you are. This is not the manic high of external validation. This is the quiet fullness of internal integrity, power. You are no longer hostage to others' opinions. You are sovereign. You are the authority on your own life. You decide what matters. You define success. You determine your worth. This is not power over others. This is power over yourself, self-possession, self-governance, freedom. And yes, you have lost some things too. But notice what you have lost: the comfort of blaming others for how you feel. You can no longer pretend that your emotional state is someone else's responsibility. You are accountable now for your feelings, for your reactions, for your life. This is uncomfortable, but it is also empowering. The excuse that you cannot be yourself until others give you permission. That justification is gone. You have proven to yourself that you can choose authenticity regardless of whether it is welcomed. You no longer have the luxury of waiting. You know the door is unlocked. You are responsible for walking through it. The fantasy that someone else's approval will finally make you whole. That fairy tale has dissolved. You have learned the hard truth. No amount of external validation will ever be enough if you do not validate yourself first. The hole cannot be filled from the outside. It can only be filled from within. The addiction to the dopamine hit of external validation. You are withdrawing from a drug you did not know you were on. And yes, you miss it sometimes. The rush of likes, the high of praise. But you also know now that it was keeping you in a cycle that was killing you slowly. You have traded the spikes and crashes for steady groundedness, and you do not want to go back. The relationships that only wanted a performance, not a person. Some people have fallen away, and it hurts. But you also know those connections were not real. They loved a version of you, not the actual you. And staying in those relationships would have required you to keep pretending, to keep abandoning yourself. You chose yourself instead. And that was the right choice. This transformation is not a destination. It is a daily practice. You will still feel the pull toward approval seeking. You are human. The old neural pathways are still there. They are just not the default anymore. And when you slip into the old pattern, which you will, you catch yourself faster now. You recognize what is happening. You course correct with compassion. You return to center. Some days will be easier than others. Some days you will feel solid in your sovereignty. Other days you will feel shaky, uncertain, tempted to seek. This is not failure. This is life. This is being human with an ancient nervous system trying to navigate a complex world. You are doing beautifully. Notice the questions you ask yourself now. They are different than they used to be. Not what will they think, but what do I think? Not am I likable, but am I living in integrity? Not did they approve, but do I approve of how I showed up? Not how do I get them to see my worth, but how do I honor my worth regardless of who sees it? These questions orient you toward yourself, toward your values, toward your truth, and this orientation changes everything about how you move through the world. You are now responsible for your own wholeness. This is not a burden. This is liberation. No one else can complete you. No one else can make you enough. No one else can give you permission to exist fully. You have to do that for yourself. And now you know how. Now you are doing it. Daily. Imperfectly, but consistently. You get to define success on your own terms. Not their terms, not society's terms, yours. You get to decide what brings you joy, what gives your life meaning, what constitutes a day well lived. You get to create your own rubric, your own metrics, your own vision of what a good life looks like. You get to show up as yourself and trust that the right people and opportunities will find you. Not all people, not all opportunities, but the right ones. The ones that are meant for the real you, not the performed you. And those are the only ones worth having. You get to live the rest of your life free. Free from the constant monitoring, free from the exhausting performance, free from the desperate seeking, free to be yourself, to take up space, to speak your truth, to create your work, to love and be loved for who you actually are. You never needed their validation. You only needed your own. And now you have it. You are your own source, your own authority, your own home. Welcome home to yourself. You have been gone a long time, wandering, seeking, looking for yourself in their eyes. But you were always here, waiting, ready, whole. The journey is complete, and the journey continues. Because you are no longer becoming. You have become. And from this place of integrated freedom, you get to ask a new question. Who will I be now that I am no longer performing? What will I create now that I am no longer editing myself for approval? How will I love now that I am no longer afraid of rejection? Where will I go now that I am no longer confined by others' expectations? The rest of your life stretches out before you. Open, possible, yours. You are free. Stay free. You have earned this. You are enough. You always were.